Man, oh man, what a game. Miami 27, Notre Dame 24. That's a way to cap a Sunday night. That's a way to almost cap week one of college football. Dude, this is in many ways a repeat of last year in that Miami starts the season emphatically. Now, unlike last year, we don't know what comes after that. Last year, really up and down defense. We know the story there. Tonight, though, many things encouraging. The first thing, of course, is you find out, yeah, Carson Beck still is the kind of Carson Beck this time last year that had a lot of folks talking about him going to the NFL draft, Heisman favorite, all that stuff. The weirdest thing that happened in the spring and summer is since he got injured and he left Georgia, people assumed that he was damaged goods. And I get maybe from 50,000 feet why someone would think that. Like if you're a casual sort of drive-by, you don't know a whole lot about the game, you just see the headlines. I can see why you may think that. Man, players don't leave major programs and improve. Well, that is normally true. There are exceptions to every rule, though. This was such a perfectly illustrated exception to the rule of a guy who just needed a change of scenery. Like Georgia's not going to be a poverty program without Carson Beck either. So it's like it's just one of those rare cases where a guy needs to move on. Maybe a program needs to move on from him. I just got done watching the broadcast. I mean, the dude's crying in the post game, and Sean McDonough made a good point. And it's a point that I don't think is hard to figure out. He thought he got blamed for a lot of stuff that was beyond his control last year at Georgia. Okay, so I said that in the spring. I said that in the summer. It's time to play in the fall. Okay, so he goes 20 of 31 tonight, 205, two touchdowns. I'd venture to say that's probably not going to be the best stat line he has all year, but it's plenty good enough stat line for Miami, especially when they go plus two turnovers to win a game. Defense is the name of the game here. Defense just not shutting out Notre Dame. Not, I don't need that. If I got good quarterback play, I got a run game that I can continue to lean on. I mean, they didn't run the ball down Notre Dame's throat now. I thought they'd have a little more success than they did. 38 carries, 119. They were about 3.1 yards per carry tonight, but they stayed committed to it. There were times late in the game, even where you could have looked at that result going another way and said, did they get too conservative? And that's a valid complaint. But here's the thing that they couldn't do last year that I need you to remember before anyone criticizes Shannon Dawson or Mario's strategy on this particular night. They know they got a defense. They know they can rely on it. They know they don't need to play pinball all night. Last year, it was we have to answer, we have to score because they're going to. Well, this was we've got the lead. Let's remember how to play with the lead. Let's trust this team to be complementary. Let's trust our defense to be able to get stops. And what happened? They go kick the field goal. They're up three. Got about a minute left. Defense goes out there, swarms, game over. Because you got game wreckers on the field. That was always the blueprint. It's just it kind of got carried out tonight. It's really interesting. The whole Carson Beck thing, I can't get over it because that's the key. That could be the key to the entire ACC race for all we know this year. We don't know anything after week one. Miami validated themselves as a prime contender again this year. Okay. I think Clemson's still going to be a contender. Florida State's a shocker. They may be a contender, but all that'll sort itself out on the field. But what becomes really interesting now is you get a different version of Miami. This is what excites you. This is what I was in a little bit of a wait and see mode on. I'm not selling on Miami. I never did anything like that. But the thing that kept me from, putting them in Charlotte to win the ACC is I just wanted to see this kind of thing validated. I wanted to know, will it take 2 years for the Corey Heatherman effect to take root, or could it happen overnight? And you'll remember in the lead up to this game, the reason I picked Miami to win this game, and the reason my optimism continued to grow throughout fall camp is because the feedback I got out of fall camp was secondary is not going to be a weakness for this team. They had one bust tonight, may have been a linebacker. I can't remember how that play unfolded, but secondary is not a weakness for them. In fact, it may end up being a net strength for them. And at the very least, dude, guys didn't look lost. Guys didn't look hesitant. Guys hadn't lost their way like Mario said they did last year. I don't say that mockingly. He's dead on the money accurate about that. This was so encouraging for Miami. Man, a lot of juice in the stadium tonight. Place was on fire. I am a firm believer. In some places, it's if you build it, they'll come. If you win it down there, they will come. They will show up. And they did tonight, and they will in the future. Miami's got a lot of meaningful football games coming up. Notre Dame does too. This is an interesting schedule because they played tonight, a hard fought game. Turnovers probably the difference here. You're -2, but you're breaking in a new quarterback on the road. To hang within three of a very, very good team. It's not the worst thing in the world. What you do is you just lower your margin for error a little bit. I think one of the most glaring parts of the stat line when you look at it is, I mean, they held Love to 33 yards on the ground. He was, I want to say, yeah, I mean, had 26 yards receiving, 33 yards. If you told me that Love was going to touch the ball 14 times and you're going to keep him under, what, 60 yards? Yeah, it's a win. That's a win for Notre Dame. But, or that's a win for Miami, rather. But 2 weeks from now, they play Texas A&M. Texas A&M at home in South Bend has a lot more urgency injected into that game now. And Texas A&M is another team that can really get after you on the line of scrimmage. It may be that we look back on this year for Notre Dame, however it goes, is however it goes. But it may be that we look back on it and say, wow, they played two of the best three or four offensive lines in the country right out of the gate. That may very well be the case. Speaking of offensive lines, how about Francis Mawanoa? Late in the game, dude is stuffed at the line. I think it was on a third down. I believe that was what it was. And then he comes in there and gets the push. That's play of the game type stuff. I don't ever think they give play of the game to an offensive lineman coming in behind a pile and cleaning it up and pushing forward for a first down. That was about as big as it gets. That little stuff, when you can really sit here and zone in on one game instead of having five of them or six of them going on at the same time, that's awesome. So, look, here's where we are. Two really good teams. I don't knock either one of them. I hat tip them for playing the game. Notre Dame's going to go up from here. I could say the same about Miami, guys. There's a lot of newness for both of these teams, and to perform at this kind of level early in the season, I'm a firm believer that their best football is ahead of both of them. And now we get to, start to figure out the picture a little bit. But anyway, what I was going to say is this is great for Miami, but going into Gainesville last year in week one and throttling Florida, that was great for Miami too. They ended up letting the season slip away from them. So, a few things I learned tonight. I learned Carson Beck is still the real deal. I learned that I think Miami's going to have a really good ground game. Fletcher, 66 on the ground tonight. He'll get his. Lyle, he'll get his. Offensive line, check. Malachi Tony, and then that receiver room kind of working downstream of him. Still got a ways to go up from what we saw tonight. Defense, very, very, very much improved. The individual pieces, there's a lot of green check marks. Okay, if you grade the game, a lot of green check marks. It will be the consistency piece for Mario Cristobal and for this team, just like it was last year. They were ultra talented but inconsistent last year. Every bit as talented this year, maybe across the board. Maybe so. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. Consistency will be the name of the game. This was a classic, though, and I'm glad we got to watch it together on this Sunday night. Miami wins it 27-24. Yet another fast start for the Miami Hurricanes.